Hi there, welcome back to Diagonal Move. My name's Neil. Today I'm going to do a short video taking a look at what's inside the box of Crossing the Line Aachen 1944. It's a game designed by Furor Teutonicus games, I think I've pronounced that correctly, and it is a simulation of the Allied attack on the city of Aachen and the attempts to cross the Siegfried Line fortifications on the western side of Germany during the last couple of years of the war, Second World War. Before we go any further, I'd just like to say that this game was given to me by a regular viewer of the channel who had acquired 2 copies by accident and offered me the spare one, and so a massive thank you to that person who knows who he is. I won't name names, but thank you very much again. And it's a game that I hadn't heard of before, and I didn't know too much about the battle, so it's actually a fantastic opportunity to learn more about the history behind this, and also highlight a game which I'm not sure is that well known. So yeah, all good all round really. So the game itself is for one to 2 players. It's not specifically solitaire, but there's a solitaire suitability of 8 out of 10, a complexity of 6 out of 10, and we have the information there relating to the unit scale, the time scale and so on. So it's battalion level, 1 turn equals around about a week, and it's a kilometre per hex. There are 4 scenarios in the game, however the first of those scenarios is a training scenario, a very small training scenario, and the campaign is a much longer campaign. Okay, so what do we have inside the box? We have some dice and couple of counters in the bag there. I will come back to those because that's quite important what's happened with those. But let's take a first look at the rulebook. And so the rulebook is very glossy. It's in full colour, a couple of columns on each page. There's lots of pictures. There's a nice graph at the front, a flow chart at the front, or a schematic of some kind. The exact name escapes me, detailing all the different types of armoured vehicles in the game on both sides. You have the Panthers and various other German tanks, and then the Shermans on the Wolverines and so on the American side. The game rulebook is really well laid out, from what I can see, having looked at it briefly earlier, in that it gives you a nice description of all of the different components in the game, very clearly laid out. Nice counter descriptions. We also have descriptions of each of the individual player aid charts and the setup charts and what's on each one, which is a nice feature. I haven't really come across that before in my limited experience of this type of game, but it actually says what's on each chart within the rulebook, which is actually really quite nice. And then it tells you in detail about the various phases of the game, the stacking limits and so on. There are some interesting zones of control. It's not a standard all 6 hexes around a unit. It depends on the type of unit and also whether it's disrupted or not. You do have the information relating to formations and creating formations within the game, command range for the HQ units, and then information about tracing command and so on, all in nice big picture examples. It's a game that has actions rather than a standard move, combat, etc. Structure, which again is something I've seen relatively infrequently. And you have an action point, and you spend them on the different actions. So I think actually overall there are a number of different things in this game which are not common, or at least things that I haven't come across personally in great numbers from the games I've played to now. But this is a really nice rulebook. It's really well laid out, really clear to read, and there the scenarios are at the back. There is no dedicated playbook or example of play So the examples are scattered throughout the book, but one thing I do have is a glossary, and this is really helpful. Just sort of an index almost that tells you where to look up each individual segment, because there is quite a lot of rules within this book. The book itself runs to there's no page numbers, I don't think. What are we on here? There must be page numbers somewhere. No, there's no page numbers, but I would say this is a good 35-40 pages in length, including the handful of pages at the back for the scenarios and so on. So, nice rulebook. Now we have the counters themselves, and there are, oh goodness me, 5 counter sheets, and we have a selection of different things on each counter sheet. There are the usual kind of unit chits and so on. We also have activation chits. This is a game that has an interesting structure, which I'll look at more when we get to the map, but essentially the activation chits are not pulled out of a cup or anything like that. They're on the board, but they seem to reduce in effectiveness over time using this track on the map. We have a combination of symbols. There's some NATO symbols, and there's also some tank symbols. We do have a couple of gaps in this counter sheet. They don't come with gaps, but the person who sent it to me has pulled out some chits where there's some errata, and I'll get back to those in just a moment. We have a victory point chits and improved defences and so on. And we also have this guide or template to terrain and then die roll, help you with the combat effect resolution tables and so on, which is quite nice. It helps you to navigate those tables, because there are some quite big tables in them when we get to those tables. Here we have a record of the current combat. Can't recall off the top of my head if it's combat strength or combat effectiveness, something like that, but it's a way of keeping track of how your units are doing, and we do have that going up to quite high, those numbers. We have action points, interdiction counters, and then we have these combat strength multipliers, I believe is the phrase, and these are a chip pull system. You pull them out of a cup or similar, and then apply them to the units in your hex, and there's some more down the bottom there. Now the ones that were blank, these have actually been pulled out for me separately by the person who sent me the game, and these are errata chits, and so there are 3. They are activation chits rather than unit chits, and so there is published there's a few different ways you can get replacements for these. Essentially they're just misprinted. They come as part of the counter sheets in a game called for Frederick II or something, I think it's called. I'm not entirely sure, but there's a game also published by the same company, and these errata counters come with that. Or alternatively, you can get a front page downloaded from the VucaSims website, I believe is the name. I'll put the link in the description, and then you simply just cut these out and stick them on the top, which is probably how I will approach it. But yeah, bear in mind there is a little bit of an errata there with the counters. Moving on with what's inside the box, we do have setup sheets and so on, as I think we saw in the rulebook. There's interesting things going on again with these sheets, in the sense that certain units on the German side do actually withdraw at certain parts of the game. So it's not just a reinforcement track or a setup track, it is actually a withdrawal track as well, which again is something I am unfamiliar with in games up to now, although obviously more experienced wargamers may have seen that before. And we have two of those. Nope. Yeah, two of those. One for scenarios 1 and 3, one for scenario 2 and the campaign. Then we have things like the operations chart and so on, and these are pretty good thick paper. Not quite cardboard, but heading in that direction. And then we have those combat resolution tables, and these are quite big, and this is where that template helps. You just place it along the side and it helps you navigate where on the table you need to be. And this next one is a same as before, and then we have a general chart, and the sequence of play and so on is written on the top. Okay, so the most interesting part, or the most important part for me at least when I look at a new game, is the map. And this is a nice big map. Although I don't exactly know the size, however it's a map that is sufficiently big that I need to put it on a table, bigger than this one, but not so big that I can never get it played because of the size. So it's a nice halfway house size for me. It's pretty good paper, it's nice and easy to read. You have a differentiation between the towns and the cities and any sort of industrial factory areas, this being an industrial part of Germany. These dots here represent the fortified line that the Allied forces are trying to cross in order to take Aachen, and those are pillboxes and so on. We have over on the bottom of the map, the side of the map, we have these tracks I was mentioning previously, where you have formation, activation, and then the action points, and then you have the turn track and so on along the side as well. Overall, this is a lovely map. The art is really nice. I do like this. It's quite easy to see the different things. Very clear. Yeah, that's a really nice map. That really nice. Okay, that is that for this video. I'm going to get this one played at some point and post a video, I hope. I'm not entirely sure when that will be, but in the meantime, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please like and subscribe. If you haven't, please check out the game anyway, because it looks like an interesting game from a new publisher, and I will see you next time.